just for the record, we're complete strangers. And your background, looking at your bio, is kind of very corporate. That's how you sort of started. So how did you go from, that very corporate kind of background to doing, this kind of sort of to being in that healing space where you are now? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
When I started going to school, and I felt tremendous pressure from the academic world, especially the way we educate our young people in Malaysia.
When we had termly exams in school, everyone would get a number, like where your position was in terms of academic achievement, right? And it's fine if you're in the top 5 or the top 10, and the class sizes, by the way, were 40, I remember. So can you imagine if you were like number 40, what that does to your self-esteem? I mean, you and I were probably on the other end of the spectrum. And even that was hard, because if you were number 5, you had to be 4, 3, or 2, or 1. And even if you were the second, that's not good enough. You had to be first. So there was this constant pressure to perform in the academic sense. And that was just the norm. That there was nothing unusual about that.
Yeah. So I was depressed as a teenager. And yes, I have to get number 1. Academically, I was really, I would say, outperformer, and 99 is just not good enough. You have to.
Exactly.
And I think in England, what really gave me a sense of holistic in terms of what I love art, so there was a bit of a science, a little bit of art, as in Malaysia, once you're in an art stream, is the poor performers. When you're in science stream, you are the good performers. So I couldn't fit in. So my dad, my late father, was very sensitive towards how I was feeling. So despite our financial circumstances, he sent me to the UK to study in the boarding school.
So he sent you to study because he could see you were a misfit.
Yeah.
That's very advanced thinking for that time, right?
So, and I, being a female as well, in a Chinese, a traditional Chinese family, became an auditor in Coopers Lybrand those days, nowadays PricewaterhouseCoopers. Or one day I discovered that I really have to come home to Malaysia to know my roots. For some reason, I think, thinking back, that intuitive knowing has always been there. So it started to groom as I went back to Malaysia. And in Malaysia, I went I progressed very well in the corporate world. I was working in a corporate world. I was in a very senior position. So I was given the role of the entire back office. That is really the entire human resource, the human intelligence. What really changed the way I approach in leadership and communication was, I remember working together with a clerical level one night, looking very hard. And I was curious, why do we have to work until 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night? And what about their families? And that was the norm, and that was expected. I said, no, I want to change this. I want to change the system. I want the people to have quality time. Our chairman I was blessed with a chairman who could see what I was trying to do, or the team were trying to do. So we incorporate a lot of change in the process. In fact, it was the time that we had to implement involuntary separation, the redundancies, But at the same time, I was adamant that we need to train the people before the separation. Right. That was unknown in that sense, that because I felt that it was necessary, even for people to leave the organization, they must leave in a good, positive note. In the transition from there to between that, I decided to, my time in corporate world was the end, and I set up my own business in restaurants. And I felt that if I can do well in a restaurant, because every faculties is in a restaurant. You have HR, you have marketing, you have everything. And that I ran that for 9 years, and I had amazing learning. So I implemented a lot of healing modality I was learning. So that was my incubator. That was
So
my
you were running a restaurant business and exploring healing at the same time in your free time.
That's
Right.
right. That's right.
Okay.
So I was implementing, for example, color therapy to my staff.
Right. Metasoma just evolved to be.
Yeah.
So how does color therapy work? I have a vague idea, but perhaps you could explain for the audience, like briefly, when you say color therapy, what does that mean?
Like we are really literally, the origination of us is light. We are forming light. So light means rainbow. So parts of us, even if you look at the ancient understanding of chakras or energy centers, it actually has the different colors along our spine. So if certain parts of the energy center is depleted because we get angry, so we would tend to perhaps accumulate a lot of, for example, red, and red would be off balance. So how can we use colors to make it balance? Other colors.
And does that involve looking at colors, or does that involve, like, for example, the colors that you wear? Because I've been, slightly conscious when I sort of looked at my wardrobe and thought, oh my God, I wear a lot of black. So maybe we should get a bit lighter now. So, I mean, it's simple things like that, but they do actually carry more weight than we probably realize.
Yes, I think so. I think so. I mean, as you know, like in the UK, when we have winter, most people will wear very dull gray colors, and I always question that. Is it a norm? Is it a habit? Or is it a conditioning? Why can't we break away from that?
Yeah, because the weather is gray, so you want to blend in. But if you kind of start wearing orange and bright colors in winter, but actually that might be a way of you stepping out of the, like we're in a dull gray season, so you can brighten it up from within, right? The healing always comes from within. So it's almost like you can decide, well, actually, I'm not going to be in this zone. I want to be more colorful. But it also involves breaking away from the norm. So when everyone else is wearing gray, but if you do wear something very bright and colorful, it can actually affect your energy and your mood, and you will absorb different, you absorb different frequencies, and you almost can just feel better by wearing the right color. I mean, would you say that's true?
Yeah, I would say that. I think the interesting word that you just used, conform. What does it mean for us as an individual? Have we let the being a conformist suppress the authentic us?
Yes.
Every one of us, we're so unique, in our own right. We are such a beautiful individual, so special in our own right. So the question is, do we need to conform?
And I was always a non-conformer, and I didn't do well in the Malaysian environment of conformity. I remember when I was in secondary school, I was a high performer academically, but I was always questioning. I would question the teachers, and I would always have my hand up. And this was deemed to be disrespectful. And I think it sounds like we both share that commonality, that with this kind of mindset, you're better off in a different incubator, so, and that's what your dad recognized. And that's why he went out of his way to change your environment, because he realized that you were being stifled and you were being oppressed, and it was causing you to have in brackets, depression. But it was because you couldn't fully be your authentic self, and you needed to be in a different environment. It's very subtle. It's not sort of a regime where you are silenced in a very obvious way, but it does have an effect in the long term. So
this is where my inner work has been. That's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate with Metasoma. beyond the body in Greek. Because all these conditionings, a lot of them do not serve us. Like our body, I give you one example. I used to feel that why are the people I'm not listened to. So I have to work extra hard, to be listened to. And I realized, oh, and where does it come from? Where does this behavior come from? So because of my curiosity, I would just want to go that deep and deep and deep. Can I find out why? And then sometimes I will see my mother behave certain ways, and then certain times that I'll behave exactly the same as my mother.
I see that now when my daughter's 18. And we both see that. And I think, she's a little bit alarmed and I'm a little bit alarmed. Some things are good and some things are things that she vowed she would never do, but now she's doing, right? It's the conditioning. It's the same way we are conditioned by social media and what we watch on television. And, it's a very background sort of thing. So you can't watch things like you can't absorb all this information and not be affected by it, not be shifted by it. So you have to be so careful where you hang out and who you hang out with and who you associate with and almost what you allow in to, because it has an effect.
Yeah. So I think our self-care, like this is one of our common thread of passion, self-care is so important. Like if we have meditation, we have time out from all this, come back to ourselves and come back to who we are, and recognizing, our behavior, have self-awareness, being mindful, and all that helps.
Yes, because you need time for introspection to tune into yourself, to work out who is the authentic you and what is it that you need, and not be influenced by surrounding. So that is what My Time to Be advocates. It's a mindfulness and meditation course that's very sort of well laid out. But at the end of it, you've been given the tools. You need to, what I try and teach my students is to try and get into the habit of making self-care a lifestyle choice. It's not just something you do in the short term or until you feel better. It's something that you want to make a lifestyle choice. So I'm curious, Lisa, what do you do for self-care?
Last few months, I've been so busy, but I still make sure that I go for my Feldenkrais class. I have my meditation daily. I try to read and pause and read something I love. I switch off when there's a violent movie on the TV because I get really agitated.
And it's also about tuning into yourself, right? It's about trying to listen to what your body is telling you in terms of what's good for you and what's not good for you. So I like to equate it to how we take our temperature check. We're wondering, have you got a fever? So you almost need to do an energy check where you check in with yourself and feel the energy to recognize which way you need to go for your benefit. And we all have the ability to do this. It's just not something that we've been taught to do in a formal way. We've been taught to sort of, the maths and the English and the science and the geography, and we've excelled in that. But these are almost life skills that a lot of us haven't actually been taught.
That's right. And this is it's interesting. You see temperature check. I call it a weather check. Our weather check is the same thing. And we all have that innate ability to self-regulate. And is when we disconnect, that's when we are not able to self-regulate.
We all remember in the old days when you used to be able to fly, when you sit down in the seatbelt and buckle up, they say, in the event of an emergency, you put your oxygen mask on first before you attend to even your children. And the self-care works the same way. For some reason, we just don't do it like that. But that is how we need to do it, really.
That's right. If our tank is not full, we can't provide for others. We can't actually hold another person when they're in need.
Correct.
We will not be full enough to provide.
So tell us about your accident, Lisa, because I read briefly about it. Tell us exactly what happened, because it sounded like it was quite a severe injury.
So basically in May last year during the lockdown in Sydney. So in any way, I was training at home and the resistance band, because I need to strengthen my shoulders, the resistance band snapped. My whole body flew backward and my coccyx, my tailbone landed on the floor. And then my arms, when I look at it, it was basically deformed. The shape was already deformed.
Wow.
It was excruciating pain. But at that point, I was so angry. You know, I was angry with God.
Yeah, angry with yourself as you were lying there on the ground. Were you on your
I
walk?
was still sitting. I was still sitting on the ground, because I could feel the shock wave just boom, 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 hitting from my base of my feet up to my head. I could feel my lungs kind of contract, my whole spine kind of twisted, and I was on my own. And I was so angry. Then for a minute, I just go, wait a minute, there must be a reason that I'm having this experience. And the search of, I still remember that point, that search of kind of determination in my heart. I need to go and reach out my phone and call my husband. So when I called him, he would just go, honey, can you walk to the, I said, no, I can't walk, you know, I can't do anything. Honey, do you think we need a paramedic? I say, yes, you know, I'm not sure what I've done to my spine.
Yeah.
I have this thought that I need to call out my friend, because I was supposed to have a teleconferencing with her 15 minutes later. Can you imagine? I was thinking, I need to call her and tell her I broken my arm. I cannot have a teleconferencing with her. And the beautiful part where it turned out, they sat with me.
What sat with you?
They just sat with me in terms of on the phone. I called them.
Oh, you called your friend to say you, oh, wow.
Yeah, I actually called them and said, I'm supposed to have teleconferencing with you, chit chat with you in 15 minutes. I think I've broken my arm. I'm sorry, I can't talk. They just go, well, can we be with you? I said, okay, you can be with me.
Wow,
and
that's
amazing. This
gush
of tears coming down. My body was shaking and trembling, and they started praying.
And are these people that you knew as your prayer circle, or is this?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Meditation circle, you know. And it's just see the synchronicity of that, you know. Yeah. This is, I'm in trouble here. I'm in big trouble.
The realization of how bad it was kind of.
Yeah, how bad it was. Yeah. So my body became numb in a way, simple. Yeah. Innocent.
For me, it kind of brings back the fact that, you know, we always worry about doing dangerous things, like, you know, but you can actually have such a serious thing happen even in the four walls of your own safe home, right?
That's right.
You know, and I think it's also reminds us how life can just change in an instant. I've had experiences like this myself when, you know, literally from 1 second to another, your whole reality shifts. And you actually haven't done anything that would be deemed risky or dangerous. And what that teaches us is to treasure the moment by moment, you know, where when everything is safe, you need to acknowledge that almost, because you have no idea what's, you know, the next moment. Like in the Forrest Gump film where he said life's a box of chocolates, you never know what you're going to get next. It's a little bit like that.
It is. But that experience when I went to paramedic, it was, for them, you know, the trauma team was so calm. So that was a safety. That was a safety for me.
Yes.
And they did not see me as something which has been broken. They see me as someone there just need help. Yeah. So because all these years of practice, so that came naturally to me. I just affirm myself, I'm okay, you know, and there's a higher power here that will help me to go through this. There's a reason for me to experience this, and I am willing to experience every single part of it,
Wow.
you know,
And
every
this is
single part.
while you're in pain, right? You're in
I was
physical
in
pain.
pain, in physical pain. So that night, then we had a surgery a couple of days later, and because of COVID lockdown, I was sent home the next day. I was not allowed to be in a ward. Yes, our home was converted into a rehab facility. It was, I would say, a harness here, there. I had to wear a whistle,
right,
constantly, so I can whistle my husband, you know, if I need to go to toilet because I couldn't walk.
wow.
I needed help to bend, and
Your
because I
personal
keep the
care.
coccyx. So basically I fractured this elbow, I broken the wrist, and I fractured my coccyx. And I remember what really became a resource for me was frequently when I asked my husband, what if I can't walk anymore, you know? And he would say, so what?
Wow.
I know. Even when I say this, it kind of put tears in my.
Of course.
So what?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
When he had to help me to shower, you know, I would cry and I say, what if I'm totally dependent on you for the rest of my life? We'll just take one step at a time.
Wow.
So that helped me to just take a moment at a time.
And this man sounds like an amazing man. Like, you know, is he someone who's done a lot of inner work, or did he just step up when the occasion called to step up? So is this how you knew him to be, or were you sort of surprised at how he reacted?
I was surprised and not surprised. I was surprised in terms of, because the memory of that still feel my heart. I was surprised in the sense that on appearance, my husband would not appear to me would be someone who has done a lot of inner work, you know. But his behavior definitely show otherwise. But I think the one thing he has is he has really strong faith.
Yeah.
His faith is just unshakable, just unshakable. Yeah. So what I learned to do was to celebrate every single little thing I was able to do instead of focusing on what I cannot do. So when I learned to progress from a plastic spoon to a metal spoon, I could hold it and I would go, yes, honey, I can do it. When I was able to flush the toilet because both arms, this arm was also fractured. So I would say, I can flush the toilet now, you know. Then I get affirmation from him saying, good on you. Let's go next. It's just like a layer after layer.
I recognized very early on in my struggle that I had to have a support network. I had to have a team, and you need to know who you can reach out to. And you literally cannot afford to be shy to seek help, because if you're shy to seek help, you're going to go down. You know, and yes. I think what you're saying and what I'm saying for everyone out there is, you can't do these hard things alone. It doesn't matter yes. how amazing you are. Yes. You know, no. You have to have help. Yes. But it takes courage to actually even ask for help in this current paradigm that we live in this current world of Facebook, where we're all putting out glorified pictures of how amazing our life is. We have this false sense of that everyone else is actually having a ball, and we're the only one in struggle. So it actually yes. takes courage to say, I need help.
You know, I had so many therapists working with me. You know, I had so many, you know, even the surgeon, when I was diagnosed complex regional pain syndrome, chronic pain, he just go, Lisa, you need to own your arms.
Wow.
You need to integrate this. I was like, how do I do this? How do I do this? You know? And because of my meditation, prayer, I keep on saying, you need to show me how to do this. How am I going to do this?
That your relationship, obviously, he stepped up in a way that you almost didn't expect, but you almost
Yes.
did because you have a strong relationship. But it takes the connection between two people to a completely different level, right? When you go through a struggle like this. And for you, it involves being so vulnerable with your partner. And the relationship, when you guys were both well, when you met and you kind of came together, there was no sort of there was no big emergency, there was no big drama. So it's connecting on a whole different level.
Yes. I think the word vulnerability is, it just, I wasn't afraid to be vulnerable.
And were
You
you
know, I
always
was,
not afraid to be vulnerable, or was that something
yes,
that is that does that come naturally to you, would you say? Because that's another thing that people often struggle with. It's not,
yes.
I was having a conversation this morning, you can't fake vulnerability.
Well, for years, I struggled with that. I need to put a mask to show that I'm strong. I need to put a mask because I'm the COO here. I need to put a mask because I carry the title of CEO. I need to put all this labeling. I think the last probably few years after I retired from the corporate shell, and I just want to be myself.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to just shed tears.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not afraid to say that I'm in pain here. I need help, and I'm not afraid to do that.
Yes.
So I think since the accident, that even showed me even more, I'm okay to be vulnerable.
So talk to us a little bit about what does it do to a relationship when you have someone who can step up. It's not a bed of roses, is it? Like, there are struggles on both sides. You get fed up of being vulnerable, and he gets tired of being the carer, because it's not something that's a day or a week or a month. It's a long haul. It's not one marathon, it's 3 or 4 marathons back to back, because the end is, the end game. Sometimes you just don't even know what is the end game. Like you said, what if I'm completely dependent on you? And as much as he's saying, so what, in his head, he knows that that is a reality and it's huge, right? So, I think what is also important to share, because we don't want people to have this fairy tale idea of this knight in shining armor that comes and steps up and it's all good. Because I think in any difficult situation, there's always struggle, with the good, and the fact that he's stepped up and he's being such an amazing support for you. There's still the struggle, and I think that's important to share as well.
Yes, I have to say, the both of us are not angels.
Yeah, no one is. We're not in this form.
Like, for example, then I would also ask about his emotion. Then I realized he was also scared,
Yeah.
so we had opportunity to let it go. And we are still working on it. There's I would say no destination to go. It's a process.
There's a perception out there that men struggle with vulnerability more than women. What's your view on that?
My husband, if he listens to this, he may not like it, but I think it would be useful. He also feels that being emotional is not something that he can easily express, or his emotion is not easily expressed. Sometimes he may describe it as like a time bomb. He recognized that it's not something that it will come so naturally and innate.
Yes.
And he often feels that, so he may sometimes let it out as frustration. He may let it out as his tone of voice may be a bit of a high pitch. Then it's for me to make sure I'm really centered and not being reactive to it. It's hard work.
It is.
It's not an easy ride.
No.
keep on
And I think
doing.
that's important. That is the important thing to share, that it's not easy. There's no such thing as, it's amazing all the time, or, it's always give and take, and there's the good and the bad and the ugly and the horrible, and it
That's
kind of
right.
all goes together. And that's okay, because that's the human condition.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah, he has his stuff to work on, to process. I have my stuff, I don't really know, even if I do know, the way we process our emotion is so different, and the I would say the peak and the trough can actually go even stronger.
yeah, you're
And
basically not sailing on calm seas. It's like you're literally going into a storm, right?
yes, absolutely.
That moment when you're on the floor and your body is kind of twisted and torn and you're in severe pain, that is a moment of acceptance, because there is no other option. You wish you could turn the clock back a second and not have done the thing that resulted in that incident happening, but it's already happened. So you either accept it, or you're going to be even more stuck.
Yeah. And I think that weight or acceptance and denial comes in and out all the time.
Of course. Of
It
course.
will come in and out. It will come out. So it just, like, self-care makes a difference, like meditation makes a difference. So we're able to catch it.
Yes. Yes.
We're able to catch it and say, no, let me come back again. Let me come back again.
So May last year is not even been a year, right? I mean, that's not that long ago. So tell us, where are you now with your recovery, and how much is, like, where are you on that journey? What can you do now, or what's your kind of physical strength and ability right now?
My body is even stronger than before the accident. That
Wow.
is the blessing.
Are you fully recovered?
I would say this, in terms of my risk, in terms of mobility, I'm probably in a very refining stage,
Right.
So I have, because of my training as auditor or process, that I basically dissect the whole recovery into rehab stage, recalibration, and now refinery.
Right. So you're in the
You know,
refinement stage.
I'm in the refinement stage, in the tail end of it, because I'm actually working together with this risk, for example, with the shoulders and my hips, and how the soft tissues work together.
But what
And
about the
one of,
pain, though? What about the pain? I mean, are you in
okay,
constant pain?
I
Okay,
was
but
in
are you
constant
in
pain.
pain now? Are you in constant pain
Yeah,
now? Okay, so would
yeah.
you say you're pain free now, or you
I'm
still?
pain free.
Okay, that's amazing.
I'm pain free. Yeah. And yes, I was told recently by one of the therapists who worked with me in a pool, that she was saying that I'm one of the very small percentage of recovery from chronic pain in such a short period of time.
Well, exactly, which is why I asked the question.
Yeah. And that's the reason why it gives me even more passion to write and to share with people. We can actually overcome this. It's
Yes.
not a life sentence. We have to commit. I think one part is that we have to be committed to ourselves.
What you have done in the last year since your injury is given a 200% to the doing, actually implementing all these things that you have learned. So for me, it almost feels like you were incubating all these lessons that you learned and you gathered in your life's journey. And then life, it was almost like the final test. It's like, okay, now you've learned all these skills. Let's see if you can actually practice it. And let's give you the hardest test, and see if you've obviously passed with flying colors. So, I think that summarizes the journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel so grateful as you were speaking that, because it's actually mirroring how I feel inside.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful to you, Bhavita, for
I'm
saying that.
very grateful for you for reaching out. Like the universe does, synchronicity is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And I think, we were obviously meant to connect for sort of a higher purpose. I think we both believe in that.